Don't talk about my hair. Look, I went to the barber for the first time in over 2 years, and I told him to basically give me the Jimmy Butler high top fade. And he said, bet. I got you. And then proceeded to give me the Gerald from Hey Arnold. So now I look like the eraser on a number 2 pencil, and that's just gonna be my reality for the next month. So I'm gonna need you to get over it as soon as possible so we can move on to more important things. Like today's topic, giving advice. Sick transition, bro. Thanks. So, I think we give advice to people like we're dictators and authoritarian regimes. Hi, my name is Fief, and now that I have your attention, let me immediately walk that statement all the way back. No, I don't think we give advice like literal fascists, but I do think we often use the opportunity to impose our perspectives on the people we're giving advice to, as if the opinion we're sharing with them is the objective truth. And I don't think this is something that we do with any malice aforethought, it's just the nature of giving advice to people. Essentially, I don't hate the player, I just hate the game. Okay, but what do I mean by all of this? Well, in matters of subjective interpretation, e.g., how to find love, how to be happy, how to find fulfillment in your job, etc., I believe that it's common for us to offer our own perspectives on these matters, as if they were infallibilities. And I say we because I do this too. I try not to, but this isn't something I can absolve myself from. The reason I'm making this video is because when I catch myself doing this, or when someone does it to me, I just feel off about it. I just don't think this is the most effective way to help someone who's going through a difficult time or experience. I think the best we can do in these situations is to offer our own experience or opinion on the matter. Qualify your advice with some indication that this is just your opinion, and allow the person taking the advice to pick and choose what they will take from your experience and what they'll leave behind. Now, it may seem like this is what we already do, right? But I would argue that this approach is rarer than you might think. And even when people do take this approach, it isn't as well received. Take a look at this post on the relationship advice subreddit. If you want to read the full thing, you can pause it. But to summarize, basically this guy's girlfriend has gained a lot of weight in a short period of time, and she isn't really responding to any of his attempts to discuss the situation. One of the top comments on the post is this one, where the commenter makes two assertions. One, that this isn't merely an issue of appearance, and two, that exercise alone won't help. And I just don't think any of us have nearly enough information about the situation to make these claims. For all we know, this could merely be an issue of appearance, and exercise alone could help. Maybe in the commenter's experience, these two assertions are truthful. However, that doesn't mean that they apply universally to every situation where someone experiences rapid weight gain in a short amount of time. The commenter is inadvertently and non-maliciously imposing their reality and their experiences on the OP. And for all of you regular human beings who don't spend your entire lives on the internet, OP just means original poster, aka the person that made the first post. So why does this even matter? Well, if the reality is that all OP's girlfriend has to do is address some appearance issues that she's dealing with and begin exercising regularly, then this commenter's advice has now set them on a path in the complete opposite direction of the solution. Their journey to resolve this issue may take way longer than it ever needed to, and they may encounter roadblocks that they never would have had to deal with were it not for this advice. Let's look at another post from this subreddit. Again, pause if you want the whole story. But in short, this guy just broke up with his girlfriend of 8 years, and he's trying to avoid meeting up with her to discuss the situation because he's scared he'll go back. So this person comments and makes this assertion. If she's trying to get you to go back on your reasons, remember, that is because she doesn't respect your decision to end things. And again, I just don't think any of us have the information necessary to make that claim. There are a myriad of reasons as to why she may try to get him to go back on his reasons that don't have anything to do with her not respecting his decision. Maybe some of his reasons aren't entirely valid. We are only getting his perspective on the relationship. So it may be possible that he contributed in some way to this falling out. And if we take the stance that all of his reasons are valid and hers aren't, then maybe OP loses out on a potential life partner because we immediately took sides without knowing the full situation. Maybe OP repeats the cycle and finds it difficult to find another partner. I just think it's dangerous to impose our perspectives on other people's realities because we may accidentally be doing way more harm than good. And you don't just see this type of response on informal advice forums. You can find them on full-fledged, sponsored advice columns as well. This one is from the Washington Post. I managed to find this piece before my 4 free articles ran out. So suffice it to say, I will never be using the Washington Post as a source in my videos ever again. It was a mutually agreed separation. You hear that, Washington Post? You didn't break up with me. I broke up with you. Okay, back to the advice. So in this scenario, the employee has a vice president in another department who's trying to gut the employee's department and apparently get them fired. The employee heard from another source that the VP suggested their firing in a VP's only meeting involving the CEO, and now they're worried that their number is up. So the columnist tells the employee to, quote, "Keep this in mind. This VP somehow sees you as a threat that can only be dealt with through political machinations." I mean, maybe, but also this is a VP's only meeting where these types of discussions are supposed to happen. That VP may genuinely believe that this employee's department is a waste of company resources and that the company would be better off without it. It's entirely possible that this VP isn't viewing this from a personal perspective at all. And so again, projecting our own interpretations as absolute truths may lead to misunderstandings of the situation and result in us trying to resolve issues in ineffective ways. And just to be completely fair, I did also find some examples of the type of advice I'm advocating for as well. On that first post about the girlfriend who was gaining weight, I found this response, where the commenter shared their experience as the person in the relationship who gained the weight and whose partner had to have a talk with them, and then shared what helped them through that ordeal. In my opinion, this is the more effective way to give advice, because the commenter didn't project their experiences onto the OP situation, and so they avoided potentially giving a false representation of the problem, which could have led OP to an ineffective and potentially damaging resolution. But as you can see, this response garnered a whopping 54 upvotes, compared to the 315 upvotes from the other comment that made those bold assertions about OP's situation. I also found an advice column called Your Office Mom, where the columnist prefaced all of her advice with, "Well, from my perspective," and also went on to ask the OP deeper questions to find the root cause of her problems, kind of like a therapist. And the reader engagement on this post was just incredible. I mean, it got an entire 1 comment. And this was the second result when I searched career advice column on Google. Now compare that to this other advice column I found called Dear Abby, where this woman proceeds to give everyone 3-sentence long, matter-of-fact, tell it like it is advice that garners hundreds of comments where people are mostly agreeing with her. I mean, she literally told this woman to stop taking care of her sick parents and leave with her husband because the woman's sister, who lived in the same house, was being a nuisance. I mean, so yeah, from my perspective, I think the predominant method of giving advice is the one where we impose our perspectives or experiences as objective truths on situations where they may be wildly inaccurate. And I think this is slightly problematic. And again, I don't think anybody is trying to hurt anyone here. I actually think it's the complete opposite. The entire reason people are going out of their way to provide advice on these forums is because in a lot of cases, they're genuinely trying to help people. So I want to make it clear that I'm not disparaging the intent behind these people giving advice. I think it's entirely noble in its nature. I just don't think the way we're giving advice is as effective as it could be. But I understand why we do it this way. Sorry, I should say I think I understand. I don't have a degree in sociology or psychology or anything for that matter. That's a plaque for being good at sports, not being good at books. But like I was saying, I think one of the reasons we give advice this way is because we're just used to the question and answer format. In matters of objectivity, that's how we get information or gain insight. Teacher, how do I solve for X? Well, student, just remember PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. For all equations, for literally every equation ever. And while we're on this topic, I need to get something off my chest real quick. I refuse to accept or indulge the alternatives BODMAS or BIDMAS, or any of these other acronyms that people use to remember the order of operations. They are abominations, and quite frankly, they're an affront to Aunt Sally. And so henceforth, PEMDAS will be considered the one true acronym. And anybody spreading this Bodmas heresy will be banished from my presence. And yes, I understand the irony of imposing my beliefs concerning the order of operations on everyone else by presenting my personal experience as objective truth in a video about how doing that very thing is often problematic and unhelpful. But you know what? Sometimes fascism is necessary. And this is one of those times. Okay, clearly joking. Please don't cancel me. I just started. But as I was trying to say before I went down this weird mathematical fascism rabbit hole, one of the reasons I think we give advice this way is because the question and answer format is just so familiar to us. When I ask a question, I want an answer. I don't want to be told about how you got to your answer and how that may or may not help me get to mine. I have a problem and I need help. So give me an answer so that I can solve my problem right now. But unfortunately, I just don't think that's how it works for more subjective issues. As frustrating as it may sound, I truly believe that it's really up to each of us to find our own answers. There isn't a PEMDAS for solving relationship problems, or finding a fulfilling career, or maintaining happiness. Unfortunately, in those situations, you're gonna have to find your own PEMDAS. And it's possible that the PEMDAS you find could look like everyone else's, but it could also look completely different. It might even be Bodmas. At least, that's what I currently believe. But as I mentioned before, I was good at sport, not book. So the chances of me being wrong are astronomically high. They say 3 things in life are guaranteed: death, taxes, and thief being wrong about things. So as I always say, to the point of exhaustion, if what I'm saying makes sense to you, awesome. Take what you can from it, go test it out in the real world, and see if it holds up. And if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, also cool. I may secretly hope that you lose your remote control right before your favorite TV show comes on, but hey, no hard feelings. Okay, no, but seriously, if it doesn't make sense, that's completely fine, and just go ahead and ignore everything that I'm saying. Again, it'd be pretty foolish of me to impose what I'm saying as truth in a video about how imposing your perspectives as truth is harmful. But the last thing I'll say about this is that I also think taking this alternative approach to giving advice doesn't only help the person who's getting the advice. It actually takes a lot of pressure off the person giving it. A couple of weeks ago, I gave some advice to someone close to me who was going through a tumultuous emotional experience. They came to me and asked for my thoughts on what they were about to do to handle the situation. And I essentially told them that if I were in that situation, I would do the complete opposite. But of course, I prefaced all of this with, well, based off of my own experiences, and if it were me, this might be how I interpreted things, etc. And in the end, this person decided to go through with their plans despite what I had said. And guess what? It worked out even better than they had anticipated. And I was left looking like a complete dingus on the sidelines. Death, taxes, and thief being wrong. And honestly, I didn't feel too bad about being wrong here, partially because I wasn't really telling this person what to do. I was just offering my experience. And having that understanding that experiences will be different made it much easier for me to be wrong. And also, I think it made it easier for that person to do what they thought was right in spite of my quote-unquote advice. But if I had given my advice according to the current standards and told them what they should do, and then they decided to do the complete opposite and succeed, I may have reason to take that personally and hold some resentment towards them in the future. And on the flip side, if they'd taken my advice, it is very unlikely that they would have reached the amicable resolution that they eventually arrived at. So ultimately, that's why I think this method of advice is the better option in matters of subjective interpretation. Simply offering your experience and allowing the other person to take from it what they will and leave the rest is, in my opinion, the best we can do for each other. But again, if this makes sense to you, then I'm glad. Go test it out and see if it holds up. And if it doesn't, no hard feelings. But if your remote control disappears, don't come crying to me. But yeah, anyway, that's gonna be it for this one. As always, thank you so much for hearing me out. Again, I hope it made some sense. It's been a while since I've talked about anything that wasn't my deteriorating emotional state, so I'm just trying to get back into that groove. But this was really fun, and I will hopefully have another one ready by next week. But anyway, all of the very best to you going forward. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Peace, and be easy.